Mystique. Water, earth, fire, air. Water, earth, fire, air.
The story of Sirena and the Water People. There once was a tribe of islanders facing a huge famine. A sickness befell on their island, and all the fish and the fruit trees died. Desperate, they sent off their bravest man on their best boat to find and bring back food. The man had to fight through huge storms and sea monsters that tried to devour him, and eventually he lost a battle and fell into the sea to drown. Sirena, a mermaid goddess of the sea, impressed by the bravery of the man, rescued him and brought him to the land of plenty, abundant with every fruit and vegetable imaginable. She nursed him back to health, and they fell in love. But the man declared that he had to leave to take food back to his people. He repaired the boat, and they loaded it with fruits and seeds to be able to make his island as plentiful as the land of plenty was. Sirena followed him, blowing on his sails and making sure he got home safely. They arrived just in time, and his people's displays of gratitude and adoration convinced Sirena to stay with them and be his wife. They lived happily ever after, making many little babies, all born with big feet like flippers, fins on their backs and webbed fingers. The water people were born. They flourished on their island and multiplied and became great fishermen, forever worshiping the goddess who created them, the beautiful Sirena.
The story of TierraMitica and the Earth People. Once upon a time, the earth was drying out, and whole habitats were turning into desert. Thirsty and desperate people, no longer able to survive in their homes, started forming a tribe of nomads that were following TierraMitica, a goddess who could grow plants and trees with nuts and fruits and many vegetables. TierraMitica could sense water, so she would find an oasis and settle there, and within days the oasis would be full of vegetation. When an oasis ran dry, she would move to the next one, and the ever larger tribe of thirsty people would follow her. As time passed, they had to travel longer and longer to find an oasis, and the people of the tribe were dying in the ever-expanding desert. Eventually, TierraMitica encountered the last tree alive, and she realized to her horror that she was the cause of all the suffering. She had been consuming all the water, and now there was nothing left. Soon, this tree would die too. She hugged it close to her heart as tears started streaming down her face. As they fell on the tree, new leaves started to sprout, and soon the tree was vibrant once again. Her tears formed little streams, and everywhere these streams went, new vegetation started to sprout, and the streams kept growing into rivers. As they flowed by the dying members of the tribe, they started reviving, growing moss on their heads and bodies, and their skins turned vibrant green. The newly reborn people went to work to create irrigation channels for TierraMica's divine tears to reach every corner of the earth. They started growing crops and even domesticated huge snails to help them toil the soil. They built beautiful little houses and became the Earth People, forever worshiping the goddess who created them, the goddess of the earth, TierraMitica.
To the gods of Myztik. Great Vulcan. Huh! Great Vulcan.
The story of Vulcan and the Fire People. In ancient primitive times, there was once a tribe of people who lived beneath a massive volcano called Vulcan. They had made their homes on the foothills of the volcano, which seemed quiet and peaceful, until one day the ground started shaking and Vulcan sprayed fireballs and lava, setting houses on fire and causing a huge panic. It felt as if Vulcan had become very angry at them. So in order to appease him, they decided to sacrifice their most beautiful children to the angry god. They built a big ramp next to Vulcan's mouth, and with great pain and suffering, the villagers left their children next to Vulcan's mouth to be incinerated by Vulcan's flaming breath. The women stayed behind, crying in despair for their beloved children. Vulcan's heart softened and his fire died out until only a few puffs remained. He had no desire to kill the children. He had just been feeling terribly alone and was aching for company. Instead of torching them, he blew his smoke over them, magically transforming them into fire people, with big hands and feet, strong bodies, fire coursing through their veins, and flames shooting up where their hair had been. He would never be alone again. The fire people lived happily with him, now immune to his fire, forging metals inside of his belly to supply the village below with great tools, and they would forever worship the god who had created them, the powerful god of fire, Vulcan.
Great Vulcan, give us fire, ho! Hail to the gods of Myztik.
The story of Horus and the Air People. A long time ago, when people were still carving hieroglyphs and living in a kingdom of pyramids, a young woman was singing with the most beautiful voice in all the kingdom. Horus, the air god, was enchanted by her voice and flew down from the skies. Seeing this huge creature flying down caused great fear, and the archers of the king shot him down with their bows and arrows. The young woman saw Horus fall, wounded, from the sky, ran to him and hid him in a safe place so that she could nurse him back to health. She would soothe his wounds, singing softly in his ear, and the god fell in love with the mortal human. A few weeks later, she gave birth, not to babies, but to many little eggs. She kept the eggs warm until they hatched, and out came the most beautiful little creatures, with little wings and beaks instead of noses. But the soldiers were still looking for the fallen beast, so Horus flew up in the sky, holding his beloved, while the little air people followed him through the great eye of Horus in the sky, a dimensional door leading to a beautiful jungle, where they settled on great leaves on top of the canopy. They learned how to weave baskets and make planks and beams from the stems and leaves of the plants, and eventually even hot air balloons. They multiplied and lived happily ever after, worshipping the mighty god who had created them, the great Horus.